everybody, back again. Hope you keep watching because we have so many interesting talents in the area to talk to. On the previous show, we featured a group called Sky Island. So now our next guest was part of that group called Sky Island, and he is now in a group called 4+Jazz. Keyboardist Mike Talley, who was appearing in the previous video. Now he joined us today. Thanks, Mike, for joining, and welcome.
I was looking forward to meeting you.
Well, thank you. So, you played currently. You play in a group called 4+Jazz as keyboardist, and tell us about yourself and what you do.
Well, you know, I'm fortunate enough to be retired from my day gig now. For most of my life, I had to work a regular job to make a living. I knew I had a retirement coming somewhere. I was going to have to take care of myself.
Okay.
But I was a producer, director, broadcast technician type guy, and I met a lot of people. My music started when I was really young. There was always a guitar in my house.
Okay.
My dad played 3 or 4 chords. We're from the deep South, Tennessee.
Oh, really?
My mom had 11 in her family. My dad had 13 in his.
Wow.
And then they had me and my sister. But I do remember a guitar being around, or a violin. They wanted me to play something, but it just was a private thing. And so I started on guitar.
Okay.
And then there were so many guitar players in the 60s, I found myself sitting behind the piano.
Okay. Way to stand out for a minute.
And then I can remember I first saw the piano when I was waiting for driver's training. It was a piano in the auditorium.
Okay.
And I sat at that piano. And then when I went to college, I always managed to find a piano someplace. And I met some really inspiring piano players. There was a guy in Ann Arbor, Travis Biggs, and another gentleman, Martin Simmons. And I really I admired their playing.
Okay.
So that encouraged me a lot. And then I met this guy, Eddie Russ, and he was in a band called Mixed Bag. And I saw them every weekend, and he said, "Mike, you like it so much, you need to buy a piano." So I bought my Rhodes. And
Fender Rhodes, okay.
And I started there.
Wow.
And I like music. It's always been a part of me. Even with my day jobs, I've found a way to work music in.
So you're a musician, and you're also a technician with video, or...
Yeah, I started out wherever I lived, I found their public access studio.
Okay, like we are here today.
Maybe, yeah.
In the field. Okay.
I've known these folks for a while, and
yeah, that's really cool.
I started with camera and audio, and then I did a lot of contractual work.
Okay.
And I eventually got hired at the City of Southfield as a freelancer.
Oh, all right.
And then a job opened up in Royal Oak, and I became a cable coordinator for their access channel in Royal Oak.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then I found myself having to repair that equipment, and I got a job at Comcast as a network technician. They had just gotten $1 million to start a network.
Okay.
And I was lucky enough to be hired. So I did that, and that's where I started to save a little money.
Well, that's a great day job to have in conjunction with
I
your
swear.
music.
And they did a lot of music. We used to videotape the concerts at Hart Plaza, so I met a lot of musicians that way. And there used to be this club in Detroit called Bomax, which was a classic R&B place, and I met a lot of older musicians there when I first started.
Oh, okay.
But in the meantime, I'm self-taught, so, and I've had all this, words were always too small, even though I talk a lot.
That's what we're here for.
Words are just too small, and that's where music came in for me. I find myself hearing a lot of melodies. And
Wait, back up. You said words are just too small?
Yeah, they're too small for me to communicate what I feel sometimes.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So they don't, for you communicate musically more so than...
I don't know if other people understand it, but I feel like I'm expressing it anyway.
Oh, okay. Well, everybody, has different, like you say, different ways of expressing musically. Some are more lyric. I'm more of a lyric person, and being on a keyboard, it would only make sense that you're thinking more in terms of musical expression.
And since I started on the guitar, but I do notice that the first instrument I hear is the bass.
Okay.
For some reason, I really noticed that, and then all the harmonies after that just are so fun.
They are. You know, and what's strange is lately, before I used to listen to lyrics and, of course, saxophone and flute. Lately, I'm starting to hear things as a drummer. And I'm not a drummer, but I'm hearing things as a drummer. It's like, wait a minute. And I've got a little kid at home, so I'm trying stuff. It's strange how you start listening to different parts of a recording, though. It's like totally unknown.
Drums, one of the hardest things, this whole thing.
Right.
Yeah. and then I've been playing with a trumpet player, and I really admire his playing. What a tough instrument, and
oh, yeah.
he's such a fine musician. Wow.
Yeah. So let's go back to Sky Island, because I know some people that were in that group. I know Darren Powers and sax player Robert Reeves, who I've known for a long time, sax player, filling with Artifact when I was with the band. And so talk a little bit about that period of time when you were with those guys.
With Darren. Darren was a good friend. We wrote so many songs together. We really did have a lot of material. And he's more of a lyricist, but he also plays piano, bass, and guitar, as I do.
Right.
So we would play musical chairs. We would inspire each other, you know.
Yeah.
At times we did duets, just guitar.
Oh, okay.
Or I might accompany him on bass or whatever. So we did a number of things like that. And along the way, we met a lot of musicians. For instance, some people that you know in common, Joe Gaglio. We did a lot of gigs with Joe. And again, I can't say enough about the songwriting. There's a couple songs that Darren and I wrote that I still perform today with my current band.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty proud of those songs. And one of the things we did during COVID, we did a recording, and we featured Kimmy Horn on one of our songs.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So it's nice to work with her as well.
Fantastic. So what you started to talk about your first musical influences.
When I was young, laying at the foot of the bed, listening to the transistor radio that I had, and WJR would go off the air at night, and then there would this jazz would come on. And I remember hearing big band arrangements like Stan Kenton or Don Ellis.
Okay.
And I remember these. For some reason, I could just really vividly see things to that music.
Wow.
I could imagine things to it, and then that led me to the young people's concerts with Leonard Bernstein.
Oh, all right.
And so I've always been attracted to this music that took me moody and made me feel something.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Which is kind of odd because, like I said, I grew up with this bluegrass, big heavy bluegrass. I'm from a place called Hohenwald, Tennessee. People call it Hole in the Wall.
Really?
But Hohenwald. And I remember when I was younger, I got a letter from Chet Atkins.
Wow.
I was interested in the guitar, and I guess my parents wrote him saying I was interested in the guitar.
Huh.
And he wrote me a little letter back offering me his courses.
Oh.
But still, it was one of those things.
Still quite legendary.
Another name you might know from country music is Buck Owens.
Yes.
So I grew up really steeped in that type of music. And
were you close to Nashville at all, or not familiar with?
No, it's East Tennessee.
East Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And as I got older, I had to leave all of that behind me because it represented bad things to me.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, like racism. And
I see.
misogynistic attitudes and
Yeah.
a lot. That's the more of a personal thing, me and my family, and so I left all that behind me. As I've gotten older and more mature, I've been able to incorporate those things into my life now, and
separate like the music and maybe what the
Right.
culture, connotation might have been.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it was too easy to stereotype then. Now it's not as easy to stereotype. I know people as people.
Yeah.
Let me just go back to one thing.
Sure.
There were a couple bands that, in the meantime, I've always had a lot of music going on. There was a band called the Session Band.
Okay.
And after Sky Island, we had this band called the Session Band. I've had a friend, Jack Cartouche. He was a doctor, and I met him in medical school in Ann Arbor, and we stayed friends the whole time. And he's been a real inspiration musically to me as well.
Oh, okay.
And another fellow, Tanis Tremonton.
I've heard that name.
And Tanis these are local guys, and Tanis and Jack, we had a recording studio for a while called Tanis Studios. Met a lot of people that way, a lot of songwriter demos. That's where I was called in to do songwriter demos.
So you write on your own, but then you've also done collaborations for say, with the Sky Island people.
And people have hired me to do session work as well.
Right.
But
Oh, okay.
the band I was just talking about with Jack, Dr. Jack,
All
we
right.
had a band called the Session Band, and we started because I met this guy Mark Burnett at parties, and he sang Beatles and blues, and I always liked what he was doing, and so I learned every song that he knew, and then whenever I would see him, we'd back him up, and we eventually formed this band, the Session Band,
Oh, okay.
and we had some really good players in that band at different times. Like the drummer often was Jim Pryor.
That's my drummer.
I thought you would know that name. He's a great singer and
Yes, he is.
performer. And then we also had
I steal him from other bands. That's basically what I do.
he plays with a lot of people.
He does.
And then at the time there was Bill McKinney. And
Okay.
Bill McKinney was a great singer, guitarist, bassist, whatever. And
All right.
so at different times we've had different members float in and out of the band. Ron Pangborn was another drummer that played with us for
Okay.
a while. But
Okay.
we played clubs. It seemed in the past there were more clubs available.
And what time period are we talking about now? So
80s,
Okay.
late 80s, 90s even, 90s. I
In the
mean,
90s, yeah.
in the 90s even, because we really used to play this place called Edison's in Birmingham.
Oh, yeah.
That might
yeah.
date us right there. And many years ago, I used to play this place called Panache in Birmingham. It was 555 Woodward.
Could have seen you there too. Yeah, see, a lot of these common places for sure. Is there anything that you're working on now, composition-wise?
Well, yeah, over the years I've written these songs, and the band I'm in right now, 4+ Jazz, we do all my originals.
Oh, nice,
And
okay.
they're instrumental, and
Yeah.
a lot of them have lyrics, but we're not singing them, we're playing them, you know.
Oh, okay.
And all my songs have been inspired by people or feelings,
Sure.
so they have
Right.
some of those titles. And I have a song called Contentment. I have another song called Resentment.
Oh, wow.
You know, and then I have people's names and stuff. But I'm just right now I'm really flattered that I've met these musicians who are willing to play these songs.
That is a big compliment, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I started to tell you earlier.
Yeah.
I found a jam session in a downriver club, and one of the horn players said, "Listen, you should go down there and meet these people." So I went down there, and the minute I walked in, I was inspired. There was this young girl who must have been 16 years old, long curly hair, playing the saxophone so well. And the people on stage were younger musicians, and they were
Really?
just, I get chills just thinking about it.
That was downriver.
Downriver in
Okay.
Melvindale, Parts of Labor's name.
Oh, that's right, Parts and Labor. Huh.
So then I introduced myself. They said, "Well, listen, why don't you come back sometime?" So the next week, Paul Price, who's my drummer, and
Okay.
our bass player, and myself showed up, and we did 3 songs. And after it was all over, you know, it was a kind of nice reception. People said, "You know, that's great. It's almost like Spyro Gyra meets Frank Zappa."
Oh, wow.
So I didn't know what to
Yeah.
make of it, but
I like that.
a trumpet player introduced himself to me, Joe Palmer, and we've been friends ever since. And he introduced me to a player, David O'Brien, a saxophonist, who plays flute as well.
Okay.
And together, we've just been making great music. And we've got at least 15 or so songs that we can perform that are original, and I have at least that many more. I want to do a live recording.
Oh,
Paul,
okay.
our drummer, wants to go into the studio, so we're going to
Yeah.
be doing both.
I should hook you up with Gail for a producer, you know.
We might be able to do
Gentleman
something.
we just had on. But it's neat how you can go into a jam session and just network and meet a whole group of people, or people that you've known, but you've run into each other again and say, hey, you know, there might be a little bit of chemistry going on, and let's expand on that, you know.
Again, I mentioned my buddy Jack Cartouche.
Yeah,
He's a doctor. He was a doctor. He's retired now.
okay.
But he kept telling me, "Mike, I found this island that I think you need to go to." He was lecturing at a medical school on an island in the Caribbean.
Huh.
He said, "Mike, you got to go." So 13 or 14 years ago, I went to this island, and I've been going back every year.
Okay.
It's musicians go there, and we always seem to meet around January, February, March. And when we're there, we have a band called Jack and the Rippers.
Okay.
And it's a combination of island folks and
All right.
the Motown influence. Like when I first
different.
Yeah, when I first went down there, it was an interesting thing. There's a language barrier, you know, but yet we had music in common. So I learned their music, and then since they knew we were from Motown, the next year I came back, We added Stevie Wonder to the mix, and they learned. So now whenever I go down in February, we have a wonderful time playing around the islands.
Island and Motown. Who knew? You know.
It's been so much fun, you know.
So they just admire that music, so they incorporate it into
Right.
the local thing. Over
Right.
there.
Of course, sometimes it has that flavor, you know.
Yeah.
It was so funny because we're used to hearing the 2 and 4, and down there, that's not it. They accent other beats, so it's kind of a.
Is it like reggae-ish?
Yeah, you could say that, but it's
Okay.
down there it's soca. There's a couple other rhythms, so
right.
it's really
Yeah.
fun.
Oh, that's interesting. So
Feb-
you were, oh, I'm sorry. Did you have
February, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, February is when you go
Yeah.
over there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you also mentioned you play at O'Mara's. You have a show coming up over
Yeah,
there?
we do. We're playing
Okay.
this the 31st of this month, and then we're also playing once a month till the end of the year.
Oh, okay.
So we'll be there in September as well. And some of the rooms we've played, it's hard to find a room that you can do original music.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, especially if you don't have a singer up front, maybe. But
Yeah.
we had a house gig pretty much at the Fleet, a place in Ferndale. It's a
All right.
cute little place.
Oh, right. That's the food truck place?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
So that was our home base for a couple of years.
Oh,
and
I didn't know that.
They
Okay.
really encouraged us
I
there.
didn't even know they had music over there.
There's a place called the Congregation in Detroit we've played, another place called the Atrium. In Berkeley, we played the O'Mara's. Like I said, that's
That's what, I bring my band in there to do my stuff too. So, and that's like you say, they're few and far between the places that you can bring your music to. But that's a great spot.
I'm glad they support it.
Yeah, and I like the fact that it's centrally located. For a while, I was going to downtown Detroit, and I don't want to. Sometimes I don't want to deal with, not to take anything away from the clubs over there, but sometimes I don't want to deal with the parking situation. So that's a nice spot where O'Mara's got their parking included, and yeah, so it works out good. So
We've had a chance to play a couple art fairs too. So
Oh, nice.
That gives
Okay.
us some freedom.
So you were talking about jazz, and I have a special admiration for jazz players. I don't find it easy to venture away from the top 40. So what are your thoughts on the music scene and jazz groups in general? Do you find it easy to get gigs playing jazz, or what we were just talking about, if it's your own original stuff, does that makes it a little bit more difficult? Or
Yeah, I should be clear. I don't consider myself a jazz player.
okay.
I'm self-taught. I
Yeah.
can't read music. I've missed some opportunities because of that, and even just
Yeah.
most recently, and but I like creating music, and I hear
Right.
music, and through some of my associations, people have been patient with me and shared what they know. So
Okay.
I do have a head full of theory, but my technique is nothing, and I broke both my hands and things like that. So
Wait, what? You broke-
roller skating and bicycling.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh.
so that's kind of cramped my style occasionally.
I'm the same. I don't sight read, so it's the same thing. It's like I find that if you really can sharpen your ear and rely on that, maximize your skills that way without reading. But sorry, I put the jazz stamp on your music.
Well, no, I appreciate that. I really
Some
do.
people just like, oh, that's I'd never heard it before. It must be jazz, Or,
I appreciate that
yeah.
because, again, some of the players that I'm playing with, when they play the songs, I'm in such admiration. Like I said, I do this. I challenged myself to write a slow song, the slowest song I could
Okay.
think of,
Right.
and it's called "Bittersweet." And when Joe Palmer takes his solo in it, I mean, whew, like the last couple of gigs we played, the musician said, "I haven't had somebody applaud my solo in so long. It felt so good."
It does, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of why I'm playing right now. I don't expect to make a lot of money from it, but it's nice to be able to feel this from the other musicians and members of the crowd and stuff.
Right.
Over the years, I've just really come to appreciate how hard it is to play certain instruments.
Yeah.
When I was, sent you some old videos that I did in the 80s, and I used to live with a bassoon player. And that little tiny reed that he had to blow through, They say it shortens your lifespan because of the pressure on your brain.
What?
That and an oboe. I've always heard this. And then when I look at Joe, who plays the trumpet, and I
Can't
think
even imagine.
playing the trumpet is just like, these things seem so difficult to me. Give me something with strings on it, and I'm much more comfortable.
Well, I'm hung up on what you just told me with the reed thing and pressure on your brain. Like, I'm going to start looking that up now.
I wonder if that's true. I've always thought that, so,
Well, I had my teacher tell me that if I play on a metal mouthpiece, that my teeth are going to, it's going to mess my teeth up. So now I try to get this little plastic thing to cushion the pressure on my front teeth. And
Are you pressing against metal with your teeth when you?
Well, there is a little hard rubber spot on there that has a little bit of give, so that it shouldn't. I was like, I hope not. I always check with my dentist. Do you notice any kind of thing going on, and things like that, and or you can get like, I don't know if it's called saxophone lung or whatever. If you don't keep your horns clean, it can mess with your lungs. But that's a whole nother thing. Things to be afraid of playing music. But now you're going to have me looking that up now.
Hey, can I just give a shout out to somebody else?
Yes, please.
Robert Reeves. We both talked about
Yes,
Robert.
speaking of sax players, my God, he's one of the best around town.
I can't exactly remember how I first met him. It was somebody was sitting in with somebody's band a long time ago. And then he said, Mike, I wondered, would you be interested in playing a benefit for me for juvenile diabetes?
Oh, okay.
And I thought, sure, and then from that point on, I've been a friend, and we've played in each other's bands occasionally, Again, he's another one of those fine musicians who can read anything.
Oh, yes, he's a reader.
His solos, he knows his instruments so well.
Yes.
But something that he and I have done for the last 5 years or so is we do this thing called the Walk for Hope. And it takes place in Saginaw, and it's about suicide prevention, intervention, remembering people who are passed, and caregivers.
Oh, okay.
It's a pretty big event, and it's a heartwarming event. And so we've been doing that for the last 5 years, and we just recently did it, and there must have been 1,000 people there.
Really? Wow.
And it really, musicians have volunteered their time to show up. We provide the background music. It's not about the music, it's about the people.
Sure.
And what they've been through. But
okay.
Again, this is Robert Reeves.
You're right.
And he plays a few different instruments as well, saxophones.
Wait, what else does he play besides?
Well, I know I've seen alto, tenor.
Oh, all the saxophones.
All the saxes.
Yeah.
And I've seen him play flute.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping maybe I can get him on here, actually, so I'm going to have to talk to him. Thanks for reminding me about that. Where can people find your music, 4Plus Jazz?
Well, they can go 4plusjazz.com.
Oh, okay.
And then they can also find me on Facebook, Michael Talley.
Well, thanks, Michael, for joining today, and always fun to talk old friends, common friends that we have, and the whole music scene and everything. Thanks so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, I'm back, and you're still watching CHOPZ. Thank you for doing that. Thanks for sticking around. So let me tell you, back in 2017, I decided to take some of my songs that was ready to be recorded. I got with my producer friend Maurice Piranha had heard, and we headed over to Royal Oak to the studio called Rust Belt to record my EP called Hypothetical Scenario. And for this project, I was fortunate enough to get some of Detroit's funkiest players through producer Grammy-nominated Maurice Piranha had heard, who had previously worked for legendary United Sound. I had Joseph Amp Fiddler on there. I had Ron Otis on there. Larry Pino was my guitarist, who was also my husband. He is on there on this recording. Bugs Beto and Shane Tucker, and who else did I have? Okay, I got to think back. And William Pope on bass. And I wrote the song about being young and doing crazy things. And here's a song video called Shoulda Known Better. That's right.
set out into the wild. The world was all mine. I had a plan, had a vision, and a whole lot of time. Alright, sheltered from it all. I was following the call. Independence, freedom, flower children all around. Come on, shut it on better way back then, but I know now. I shut it on better way back then, but I know now. I shut it on better way back then, but I know now. I shut it on better way back then, but I know now.
Well, you might not want to hear this, but there's more to this. It goes anyway.
Denim dreams up on my sleeve. My hair was wild and long. An idealist, I was a rebel. Music, art was everything. My inspiration packed up in a hippie gunny sack. Maybe fame, California. Money was my last thought. I shut it on better way back then, but I know now. I shut it on better way back then, but I know now. I shut it on better way back then, but I know now. I shut it on better way back then, but I know now. Mama couldn't tell me. Daddy couldn't tell me. Swear they couldn't tell me nothing. Well, all right. I know now. Hey, 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 oh. Come on, shut it on better way back then, but I know now. I shut it on better way back then, but I know now. I shut it on better way back then, but I know now. I know my way. I shut it on better way back then, but I know now. I shut it on better way back then, but I know now. I shut it on better way back then, but I know now. I shut it on better way back then, but I know now. Shut it on better way back then, but I know now. Shoulda known. Shoulda, woulda, coulda known. Shoulda known. I shoulda known better. I shoulda known.
That was my song called Shoulda Known Better from my EP called Hypothetical Scenario. And I'm Kat Orlando, and thanks for joining us on CHOPZ. We'll see you next time.